Hi guys, Alex Peak Performance Reviews. Welcome to another vlog. Excuse the super dirty, look at the state of that, Fiesta ST in the background. That is what happens, yeah, I'm going to get her told off here, when you leave it with your missus. She parks it under a tree and the birds basically shit all over it. So yeah, gutted. But anyway, I haven't got time to go clean this straight away. It will be getting cleaned and I'll show you it later actually, just to prove that it does get looked after. Normally it was just parked under a tree overnight. Not happy. Anyway, on to the vlog. Today we are going to be doing spark plugs on the Fiesta ST. We have a track day coming up at Brands Hatch for the Burton Power track days. And yeah, we've got basically full track day session plus evening in the ST. I'm going to also be testing out the C1 24-hour race car, which I cannot wait to have a little go in. It's going to be brilliant fun. So keep an eye on the video of that as well. We'll show you that and vlog that, as well as the Brands Hatch track days, and cover all of that. But first we're going to do spark plugs in this. We're going to show you how to do the spark plugs in a Fiesta ST180, and also how to do how to gap the plugs in any car really. So yeah, watch on and we'll show you. First things first, you've got to open the bonnet. No, I'm only joking, I'm pissing around. No, basically make sure that you've got the tools you need. So we've got a socket set, most importantly spark plug sockets are what you need, and also very important is a set of feeler gauges. If you don't know what they are, this is what they are, and you really do need feeler gauges. Doesn't matter what make they are, make sure you've got some feeler gauges. So there are a number of tools that you basically can use to get the gap decreased, and then obviously use the feeler gauges to re-increase the kind of gaps. Now, I won't lie, I have always gapped tools by really being gentle and very careful with hitting the top of the electrode just ever so slightly on a flat surface, or sometimes tapping with a little tiny hammer. But normally on a surface just gently, and it should easily just slowly but surely close the gap. Now you can buy these things that look like coins, gapping tool, and you can buy gapping tools that also have a little press release type thing where you can kind of clip and press down on the electrode. But you've got to be careful with both those tools, and you've got to be careful with doing it in the method of tapping. And I know a lot of people will probably say, and you may even say in the comment section, that tapping it, especially on iridium, is not the way to go. Now, one thing you do need to remember is with an ST, the plugs are iridium, and a lot of plugs these days for turbocharged cars are iridium plugs. So you have to be really, really careful, because the tip, which is basically the little point that basically the electrode or the spark will kind of come out to, and then basically hit the top of the electrode, or vice versa. You've got to basically be really, really careful of the tip on iridium, because they're super fine and they're quite delicate. If you basically break that tip, one, the plug's absolutely buggered and you can't use it, or two, you might fracture and break or crack the electrode, and then it will basically fall down into the cylinder and hit the valves or the head, the top of the piston, and do some damage into the engine. So electrodes, can potentially do some, fairly big damage. So even though they're small little things, you'd be surprised. You can be lucky and you might be all right, but you might be unlucky. So please be really careful, be very gentle if you use the method what I'm going to use. I'll show you how to do it, and yeah, right, first things first, covers obviously got to come off. Just give it a good old pull and it should come off. It's quite stiff, but you'll feel where each little bit is, and if you look, they're on these little, that's how they kind of come off. So actually that one's a little bit fractured, but they're all right, and they basically go on these little ball joints, so that's how they just pull off, and they're meant to be pulled off. So take the cover off, put it aside somewhere, just nice and carefully, and then you've got the top of the coil packs here, and obviously we need to take these coil packs off now. So some of the wiring looks like it kind of gets in the way a little bit. We can probably move that away. Yeah, probably by hand, to be fair. It looks like it should be all right. So yeah, I've never done this before, so I'll take you through step by step. So 8mm socket onto the top of the coil packs, and there's 2 bolts per coil pack, and obviously it's a 4-cylinder, so there's 4 of them that have to come off. When we start taking these off, we're going to take the plugs onto the coilovers off, coil packs off. Obviously take those out. We don't have to disconnect the battery, don't worry about that. So yeah, just crack on. These are quite tight old things actually. You've got to push down and give them a good old pull when they come off. But yeah, they're quite awkward to get off. Obviously 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. Do those first. Now with these, you're not going to need to number them or worry about where they go, because they're pigtailed off, and to be honest with you, they're also they run from the loom individually to each cylinder, and there's a very small run to each coil pack, so you can tell exactly where they need to go. This one could go loose and go somewhere, but it's stuck on the top of here, so it's not going to go nowhere. It's quite obvious where each wiring part goes to what coil pack. When you take the coil packs off, if you want to, I normally put them up on the scuttle panel, and I put them in order from left to right, cylinder 1 through 4. But if you really want to be careful, if you're moving around in a certain workshop and you're worried about where each of those coil packs go when you take them off, if you want to be super careful, give them a number. You know, use something like a bit of like a white kind of marking pen, or a kind of marker, a permanent marker on top of that. If you want to, it's up to you. I wouldn't want to, and I'm not going to, but yeah, up to you how you do it. But be careful. You need to try and keep the cylinder references exactly where they are in each cylinder if you can. These plugs are one of the most evil plugs known to man. Now, if you're not having a problem with these, fair dues, but if you push on them and pull them out, some of these are so awkward to get out. So Alex's mega top tip: get your thickest feeler gauge, which is massive. Don't use that for gapping your plug. Well, you could do it on another car maybe. And basically just be careful, get the feeler gauge right underneath the grey and black parts that basically are at the bottom of the clip. Okay, you should be able to, while pulling, like where, if you looked in, you probably won't see from there, but where I showed you on the little clip a moment ago, and just pull, and they come off really easy. So like I said, big feeler gauge underneath the clips, get underneath both the grey little part and the black two little parts surrounding the grey, and then pull on the clip and it will come off really easy actually. So once you've got those bad boys off, all clear, then basically, like I say, 2 on each coil pack, 8mm bolts, you can start taking them off. Unless the Rock Dwayne Johnson has been doing these up, just so you know, when you take these off and when you finally release the bolts, you'll notice that they're really loose, and they're not really been fitted that tightly. So when you go to redoing these back up, just give them a nip and a little bit more, and that's all it's going to need. So don't torque it and make it, you know, super tight, because you're going to break shit. And our last bolt. That's loose. Take it off, and then basically I've put all of my bolts up on that scuttle panel. It looks and does a good job for that. So yeah, the coil packs are ready to be taken out individually. They should kind of, you'll see, they'll have a kind of bit of suction to them. And if you pull it, probably be quite hard. There you go. That's cylinder number 1. Happy days, there's 1 coil pack out. I say it's always good good practice to kind of have a look at the coil pack condition, so make sure the rubber's not cracked or brittle or broken, and look at the kind of cup in the bottom as well to see its condition. But yeah, everything looks good on that first cylinder. So like I said to you guys before, I'm going to put cylinder 1 there, cylinder 2, cylinder 3, cylinder 4. Now, in terms of maintenance, depending on what kind of pipe and crossover pipe and hard piping you've got off your induction, an air intake, you are potentially going to have this pipe that goes over the top. Actually, mine's looks like you can kind of pull it alongside and get this out easy enough. So yeah, it's not too bad. Some other people might need to take some of these cross pipes over and kind of get rid of, or not get rid of them, take them off to get rid of that, to get that kind of coil pack out. But yeah, play it by ear, guys. Obviously, each car's going to be different because a lot of you guys have different modifications on your car. So yeah, my one with this AirTech intake, stage 2 intake is yeah, all good actually and hunky-dory, so happy days with that. So there you go, there's all 4 cylinders. I've had a check inside them and they look all good. And if you look inside here, you should just about be able to see, you can just about see that, can't you? The spark plugs, so we're going to take them out. Obviously they're going to be exposed when you take them out, so just be careful that no debris from anywhere falls down into that cylinder, because that is not what you want. So be nice and careful, reasonably swift about how you go about things, but take the plugs out, check them, and we'll start gapping them and getting them in. For this, the Fiesta ST, you need a 16mm plug socket with a long extension on there. What you'll notice is if that's not on the piss, that's not me putting that in on the piss, the cylinder design on the ST, you probably can't see from there so much, but certainly from that. Now that is on the cylinder, and I'm not going to put much pressure on it, but even if I pull it to the right or to the left without pushing it hard, you can see that is the kind of cylinder design in terms of the plug direction. There's a, you know, it's not 90 degrees, so it's not 45 either, but there's a big, you know, angle on that. So don't try kind of pulling it over straight. That is the natural angle, so be careful. That's how they go in. When you put it back in, that's the angle it's going to need to go in. That's the angle it comes out. They are stepped, just as this kind of dished and kind of design for the coil packs will suggest. They are sitting on close to something like a 45-degree angle. Well, not quite 45, but probably 25 or 30. Probably find out. But yeah, just note that. Okay, so that's every plug out. They all look in fairly good nick, to be fair. But yeah, obviously the gap does look quite big, but that's a stock gap for you. So let's have a little look at them and so you see what the gaps are, and go from there and gap them appropriate for this car. Stage 2 car. Apparently the best gap for this is 0.26 or 0.25, so we're going to go down as low as that, certainly, because obviously this has everything that you need to kind of go to stage 2, and definitely needs better and smaller gaps than stock, so we're going to re-gap. So the gaps we've checked are pretty much 0.32, which is, yeah, around a stock gap, so we need to go down to 0.25 or 0.26, so a good bit tighter and smaller. So yeah, let's do that and go from there. I'm just giving you this as an example. I will tap on a flat surface like this, for example, very gently. It doesn't need to be that hard, just experimenting with the kind of feel of how hard you can do it. Just don't do it too hard, nice and gentle, and bit by bit you can close that gap. It's actually, the electrode is probably a little bit more malleable and softer than you realise. You don't have to absolutely club it. If you do, you're going to close the electrode in the gap between there and probably hit the tip and then break the tip. So be really, really careful. Just little taps, slowly but surely, close the gap and keep measuring until you get to where you need, which is ours is 0.25 we're going for. We've done one already and it's ready to go in, and obviously we're going to do it with all 4, so yep. So in case you're wondering why I haven't shown you a new set of plugs, yes, I've been gapping the standard ones. Why? I've taken this actually to Ford, and they've done spark plugs only about 2 months ago, and they were new plugs basically. The plugs are in really good condition. Iridiums can last quite a while. I like to change them at least every year, because that's just me. I race and everything like that. Well, I don't race, but I do track days with this. I don't race this car, I race another car, but I know that them plugs will be absolutely fine because they're new, and the stock plugs are meant to be one of the best plugs you can get for this, even if you're up to 250 horsepower. Stage 3 you probably can go colder, heat range. I bought some ITV 22s, apparently some people like them, some people don't. So I didn't want to use them, so I used stock plug. I've re-gapped them now. The gaps were huge. They were 0.32, which is quite, you know, it's like factory to be fair, but in comparison to 0.25, actually, when you put a feeder gauge on it, it's actually a lot more than you'd even realise. Anyway, we've dropped the gaps to 0.25. Hopefully it'll make the car run better. So yeah, like I say, I've noticed that the performance just slowly but surely, like kind of goes lower, and I do this by using a kind of test run that I do. I've got a kind of private grounds, you know, half-a-mile road, and the difference after 2 or 3 or 4 weeks with new plugs on a half-a-mile stretch of road and really going for it is when they're new, I get 7 miles an hour, 7 to 5 mile an hour more than when they're old. And it's always when I do the plugs. That was when I decided to do a bit of research, and everyone basically ended up saying to me, the big boys, like, you know, people that run time attack cars, the people that really know these cars inside out, they said that you must do a much smaller gap on a stage 2 car or above. You've got to obviously keep an eye on you know, what your modifications are, what you do, but most stage 2 cars need to be 0.25 to 26 on the plug gap. So we have lowered the gap to that, and we're hoping that will change things and make it run even nicer. Nothing wrong with it, no codes, no horrible lumpy idle or sorry, lumpy running or anything like that. It just, you can just tell, you know, if you check things like that and do these runs, I know exactly where the car's and how the car's performing, and yeah, I'm going to hope that does the job. I'm going to go and test drive it in a moment when I put everything back together. Remember when I said what I said to you guys when you put it back in, remember the angle of the dangle. Remember, get that angle right, and you'll just feel that when you put the kind of plug in, it will find its centre and it will screw in lovely, straight, or not straight and true, but true. You'll feel it kind of just threading in nicely, and then get to that kind of point where you get it goes all tight, and then get your socket on it. Got to turn it away, and when it gets tight, which is not yet, you can feel it's kind of still kind of threading in, but a little bit kind of bitty and jumpy. That's because it's starting to kind of get close to the point where it's tightening in the head, and still not tight. Just keep doing that till it gets tight. Okay, when you get it to 90 degrees, only give it a quarter of a full rotation. So from 90 degrees, when it feels tight, when you'll know when it feels really nice and tight, when you're just doing it around. When it gets to that tight point, at that point with everything 90 degrees, what I'm saying is 90 degrees there, just give it another a tight, and all the way up to there, you'll feel it is actually, when you get to that point, it is super tight. If you went to a full kind of extra 90 degrees, it would just be, you can really start to feel how much pressure you're putting on it. Do not put any more than that. Nice and tight is going to be there. That's going to be adequate. Don't do no more. That's fine. Right, so the plugs are back in. Just need to get them coil packs back in. Obviously put them in. It's really, really simple. So yeah, just get those bolts back on the coil packs. Get them all hand tight, and then give them all a tiny little nip with the socket, but very little. You don't want to crack or break those plastic kind of covers that are, or the plastic bits that are on the coil pack. So they only need to be done up really, really gently. So I'll actually show you. So yeah, get the socket on, and then just, you'll feel again till it feels tight, and then literally just give it a nip, and that'll do. You don't need to do it any tighter than that. So that's tight, and I can probably give it a tiny little bit more, and that'll do. Do them all, and that's it. Happy days. Then get your clips back on, which are obviously going to be easier to put back on than getting off. They were very awkward, but I gave you a little tip to kind of help you along the way. Alex's top tip. That's done. Get the cover back on and go and drive and enjoy. Right, so that's it. Thanks for watching, and yeah, as always guys, like, share, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you again on the next one. I'm off to clean myself, and more importantly the ST. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. Take care.